40 horse Johnson, and go. All right, guys, how you doing? Welcome to American Defender. So this is the boat right here. This is the boat. It's taken me 3 weeks, as I said in the beginning of the video there, to get this thing to run that way. I'll show you some video of all the stuff I've had to do to this thing. So I picked this boat up real quick. I picked this up for 1,800 bucks. I bought it knowing that the engine wasn't running the way that it should. The boat is a 16-foot Alumacraft Lunker V16, it's got, decked out interior in it, live well, seats 5, steering, Garmin fish finder, all that kind of stuff. Dual trolling motors. I got a Minn Kota Riptide on the rear and a motor guide, Bill Dance 30-pound on the front. It even has a radio. So it's fancy for fishing. It's fancy schmancy. Nice interior. It was a nice boat, but the motor, for whatever reason, when I first got it, I know the reason, but it wouldn't run right. We'll see if I can throw a video in of it running right here. See if it'll go into gear. Had my barrel on it. Tried everything, okay? The original owner of the boat, the previous owner, I should say, was having issues with it. And he, like everybody was telling me the same thing, okay? And knowing what I know about engines, I was like, I don't think so. But everybody was telling him it's a fuel problem. So he got in here and he put a new fuel tank in it and some new fuel line, and then he put another bulb in it, which I ended up replacing anyway. And he had that gray fuel line that went up to it. I took that stuff out because that stuff is instant death for your engine. Don't use that gray fuel line. Just don't use it. It's garbage. If you want to kill your engine and your fuel system, that's how you do it. Use the gray fuel line, because the ethanol in our fuels today eats the liner out of it and it becomes mush, and then it gets jammed up in your fuel filter and your fuel pump and your carburetor and all over your reeds, and it's just no good. So went to Napa, got some regular old 5/16 fuel line, good old-fashioned rubber stuff, like they had in the 50s, that when cars were cars, and things were dependable, and put it on there, put a new end on it, new clamps on it, started there. Okay, kind of finished what he started. Went over. Let's go ahead and take the top off of this booger here. Went ahead and got under here and took the carbs off, cleaned them up, checked them out. I'll show you a picture of that here. When I took them off, and that's the main thing that told me, hey, it's not a fuel issue, buddy. Because these carburetors were spick and span clean when I took the fuel bowls off. There wasn't rust, there wasn't varnish, there wasn't anything at all in them. So they went back together, put it back on there, and instantly I was like, okay, well, it's not a fuel problem, so now we're looking at link and sync. So I came over here and did the link and sync on it about 20 different times. If you guys need to know the stats for the link and sync, this rod right here, this your throttle rod, is 7 13/16. This rod up here is 2. This is your spark rod. This is like adjusting your distributor in your car. It's 2 1/16 of an inch between ball from ball. Okay, same thing here. They actually put a mark in the middle of that ball. That's your center point. So this is 7 13/16 inches from this point here to that ball. This one's 2 1/16. This screw needs to have a 1/2 inch gap from the front of the nut to the back of the bolt head. All right, and then you do your synchronization of the carbs. You don't use a vacuum gauge for it. You just loosen this screw right here and go. And wherever they all land, give them a little flop. Wherever they land, tighten it up. Okay, that's how you do it. You want to make sure that these arrows are pointed the middle of this shaft. Mine aren't right now, but if I pull it back, you can see they are. It's my cable. But as you can see right there, those are pointing to the center. This line right here points to the center of this shaft. There's 20 thousandths of an inch gap right there. You're ready to go. All right, that's all there is to it. Did that 100 times. I even went and did it for the newer engines, thinking maybe someone might have changed this to a 93 or newer power head. And in that case, this is 7 5/8, and this is 2 1/2. Okay, everything else is the same over here. I also noticed that these rollers that were in here, you can see I replaced these. These all had the rubber missing on them. So I replaced all of those. And none of that did anything. So it wasn't timing. Well, it was timing related, but it wasn't link and sync related. It's not carburetor related. So the next thing I did is I went ahead and I said, okay, let's take a look at the flywheel key. So I got up here and I pulled the nut and I looked down at it, and here's a picture. And the flywheel key was straight in line. All right. And at a quick glance, looked at it and said, okay, it's good to go. You know, it's not off center. You know, you don't have part of the key over here and part of the key pointing this way or that way, or, you know, it's all in line. So didn't expect anything wrong there. So put the nut back on, came over here, tested coils, changed spark plugs. I ended up wearing the starter out on it. So I went and got another starter. Had to put that on there. New fuel filter, that's all on there. All new fuel lines and everything. The VRO2 pump on this has been bypassed. So I mixed my fuel. All right, so I don't use the oil tank. I don't like relying on pumps for my two-stroke engines. I would like to know that that oil is there, and as long as it's drawing fuel, it's getting oil, and that's that. All right, it's the most reliable, dependable, safest system there is. I don't know why they started doing the mixing thing with pumps. It's not hard to mix oil with gas. It's a 50-to-1 mix. Remember, 2.5 ounces for every gallon of gas. That's if you're using Lucas. It's 2.5 ounces of oil for every gallon of gas. That's it. It's that easy. Okay, so got through all that stuff. Found out that my priming solenoid, this little guy right here, which is the guy that owned this before me, got in here and replaced this little lever. I got in here, and what I found was that it wasn't working. These little hoses right here, these are your primer circuit, these little guys. And when you push in on the key up on the controls, what it does is the solenoid comes up and it kicks a diaphragm up, and it allows pressurized fuel to come through these lines and to enrich in your mixture. So when you're starting it, you've got a rich mix. All right, kind of like a choke. All right, there's no choke plate on this. They went this route. Whereas, as you can see, like on a 7140 horsepower, they actually have a choke right here. This is your choke right here, I think. Which one is it? It's one of these two. Yeah, you can see the lever. You can kind of see there's a lever moving in there. That's your choke right there. Okay. And you might be wondering, why do you have a 7140 horsepower outboard sitting next to this boat? Because I had worked on this so long, I thought this motor might have been toast. So I was getting ready to put that one on here. But anyway, so did the link and sync and all that, and I was like, okay, that's not it. Tested primary, secondary windings of the coils, did the DVA tester thing on all the electronics. Everything was checking out. New spark plugs, checked the wires. And so I was like, what is it? Then I discovered that my battery wasn't charging either. And so I was like, okay, something's up here. Flywheel's got to come off. Took me 3 weeks. All right, now remember, I've had that nut off 3 different times, checked that key 3 different times. And every single time that nut came off and I looked at that key, it was straight. It was where it was supposed to be. Okay. Well, that key turned out to be the problem. I took the nut off, took the flywheel off, and the key fell into 2 pieces. It was just barely catching the lip on the edge of the slot for the keyway for the flywheel. Just barely catching it, but it was enough that when this would idle, and this is exaggerated, of course, but when this would idle, it was kind of like the flywheel was doing this while it was running, going back and forth. So it wasn't always in time. And I kind of suspected this key because when I would check my timing marks with my timing light, I noticed it would kind of sit there and do this number like it was flickering. And I could see the numbers kind of go in between numbers, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And so what this was doing basically is the flywheel was just spinning on the crankshaft, but the key was just kind of catching it, but it was allowing it to jiggle. All right, so 79 cents later, and a trip to Ace Hardware and put the key in, and it runs like this now. All right, so good to go. All right. Another little tip on these. A lot of these Johnson motors, they come with this green foam in here. Whenever you get one of these engines, vacuum these. Vacuum this foam out. All right, because it'll leave some dust behind. Yeah, I already vacuumed this one, but you can see I still got a little tiny bit of it left that I couldn't get off of here. It'll leave some dust behind. There are no air cleaners on boat motors. There's just these 3 holes here. That's your intake. And if that dust gets in there, well, guess where it's going? Inside your engine, in your carbs, all over everything. Spells disaster. Vacuum your foam, all right, on your hood. Vacuum that out, all right? Because after time, what happens is it starts to dry rot. So vacuum it. And if it's really bad, just rip it out, okay? Or you can, I've seen folks glue tin foil over it. That works too. But yeah, runs good, man. It is a good runner now. I am, again, like I said, electric tilt and everything. Got to put my transom saver back on here. It's just a cool old boat. We're going to be doing a ton of fishing in this thing here soon. I'm going to start doing fishing videos. Maybe give Bill Dance a run for his money. And KVD and all them. I'm not a bass fisherman. I'm a cat fisherman. But I'm going to go out after the ditch pickles. So, just kind of wanted to show you guys the boat. Here's my transducer for my Garmin Striker 4 Plus fish finder that I have. I'm going to be buying one of the big fish finders to put in the front. Probably going to go with that one. I'll probably go Garmin or Lawrence or Humminbird. I don't know yet, but I haven't decided. But any which way, there it is. I just wanted to show you guys the boat, show you it running. So here's some video of it beforehand, some things that I saw, pictures I took, various different things. Hopefully it'll help someone out. And remember, when you get on all these forums, most everybody, the first thing they say on these motors is, check your carburetors, clean the carburetors. It's the carburetor. It's fuel. It's fuel. It's fuel. It's fuel. Check that flywheel key first. If it's not going into gear in the water, if it's doing something like that, if it's running real funky, if you can't time it, if it's not starting at all, always check that flywheel key. Right, there's 79 cents at Ace Hardware. I think this one was an 1/8 inch by 5/8 Woodruff key. All right. As a matter of fact, I think I have the bag over here. I think. I'll show you what. For those of you that, yeah, there it is. I bought a spare. I'll show you guys what I'm talking about. There it is. That little thing right there. It took me 3 weeks to figure out that little piece of garbage was the problem. So I keep a spare one in here just in case something happens. So and the nut on the top there, I used 1 1/16" socket to take it off. It's not really 1 1/16", it's something metric, but 1 1/16" worked. And then torque it down. The manual says 40 to 45 pounds of torque on there. I just impacted the sucker on. And that's what all the boat shops told me too. They said, don't listen to that 40 to 45 pounds, just torque the crap out of it. So you don't want to break the crank or anything, but I used an electric impact and just popped it on there and called it good. All right, so yeah, I think that's about everything. This is what I've been doing the last 3 weeks. It's been, 21 days since I've done a video, and this is why. Because I've been working on this thing. It's lake ready now. I'm ready to go out. And I am ready to rip some lips. So with that, guys, thank you for watching. God bless you. God bless America. Remember to take a kid fishing, take a kid shooting, and as always, I will see you on the flip. Bye now.